Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Christine Kaczmar. You are listening to Smart Digestion Radio, episode 25. Thank you for being here.
What do you get when you cross Albert Einstein with digestive enzymes and a fistful of kale? Smart Digestion Radio with Dr. Christine Kaczmar, the all things diet, nutrition, vitality show for the wellness-minded.
Hey, everyone. I have something really excited planned for you, and it's kind of like back-to-back games, like in Major League Baseball where like the Cleveland Indians will be playing the Detroit Tigers in Detroit at Comerica, and then the next night the Tigers go over to Cleveland to play there, kind of like a home-away splitter. I don't know what you would call it. But anyways, that's what I have planned for you lined up on these next two podcasts with my pal, Dr. Meg Haworth. And so first up, you are going to hear her interview me. Dr. Meg is going to interview me. And then the next episode on my Smart Digestion Radio, you will hear me interviewing Dr. Meg. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side.
Today, I am super excited to introduce you to my favorite periscoper and digestion experts. So I began watching this fantastic woman on Periscope the day that I downloaded the app several months ago, and I've not stopped watching this brilliant, funny, easily understood doctor who gives incredible content that you can apply to your life immediately. And I think her work just needs to be heard everywhere. So Dr. Christine Kaczmar is my guest today. She is a Loomis Digestive Health Specialist, Loomis International Health Specialist, and family chiropractor. Dr. Christine has built her successful practice around helping people regain their freedom from the crappiest, yes, crappiest, I like it when you say that on your periscopes, health conditions like Crohn's, colitis, IBS, constipation, etc. So Dr. Christine states, I am not at all interested in throwing medications at symptoms. Rather, I recognize the importance of finding the source of stress and removing it without the use of drugs. So in that arena, you and I are completely aligned. So she is also the CEO of Omega Digestion, a whole plant-based enzyme supplement company, and co-founder of Healthy Surrender, an online-based wellness community, teaching people the basic principles to living their most abundant life. Her podcast is Smart Digestion Radio, and check out her live video streams on Periscope. They're fantastic, guys. Really, she'll have like her dry erase board, and she'll write down points for you to understand and know, and it's great. I really enjoy them. So welcome to the show, Dr. Christine Kaczmar.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Maggie, you're the best. That was so sweet. To say that I'm your favorite periscoper, is that for reals?
It's for real. I swear to God. I'll be with friends. I'll be in a car somewhere, and I'll be like, Dr. Christine's on, and they'll have to listen.
I know. Every time I see you pop onto my scope, I just get so happy inside because we are aligned. Like I've watched so many of your shows. I love your message. I love everything that you're telling your people. You're so easy to understand as well. I mean, like it's just perfect. I'm so glad to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Yay. Thanks for being here. Now, today we are going to talk about leaky gut syndrome. So, because I get asked about leaky gut a lot in my private group, and, just out in audiences when I'm teaching at Whole Foods. And personally, I was diagnosed with a condition about 20 years ago. And back in those days, Western medical just laughed at that condition. And now it's on WebMD. So it just took a long time for them to recognize it's a real bad thing. Mm-hmm. But for me at the time, my nutritionist told me that it was the worst case that she had ever seen. Wow. And I could tell you that my entire system was breaking down little by little. So I couldn't keep any food in me. I had severe abdominal pain every day and had developed over a dozen conditions. So it was harrowing. So Dr. Christine, can you just tell listeners what is leaky gut syndrome?
So essentially, the main thing is that I've seen this in practice. I've been a doctor for 15 years, been focusing on my digestive side for the last 9. And mm-hmm. one thing I know for sure is that people are talking about leaky gut all the time, or they're talking about candida all the time. I mean, these are the two buzzword things that patients come in and talk about. And a lot of people think, that they're free of having leaky gut, that they may not ever get it. And I'm here to straighten everybody out that may be listening. We all have a leaky gut. Every single person listening has a leaky gut. It's just to what severity is it? Okay.
Oh, okay.
So think of if everyone just holds up their hand. where you're looking at your fingers. And if your fingers are all next to each other, where they're touching each finger next to it, that would be an example of a properly defended gut, if you will, or an intestinal wall. Now I want you to spread open your fingers where you're going to see gaps, right, where your fingers are no longer touching the ones next to them. That's an example of a leaky gut. And so what happens when you spread open those fingers, I'm kind of talking about the intestinal villi, if you will. When we spread them open, these junctions are now exposed to have food particles pass through. And so what you want is those tight junctions where, in the first example, I had your fingers touching the ones next to them. That's nice and fortified, and it's a nice defense. Think of like a wall or a fortress. You want it to be nice and tight. You don't want there to be holes. So leaky gut is really the concept of you're having inflammation, okay? You're having inflammation, which is spreading open these walls, if you will. The villi are spreading open, and these junctions are now breached. And so undigested food particles are going to pass through there and land in places they don't belong. I kind of like to describe undigested food as food dust, if you will. It's kind of like landing or flocculating where it doesn't belong. And when it hits these places of our body, the tissues, muscles, whatever, it's going to cause an immune response. It's going to cause inflammation. It's going to cause energy deficiency. So leaky gut is very, very common. It's just how severe is it? And so what I work with in my practice is I work at finding where are they having a hard time digesting food. That's my core. And I know we were talking a little bit about what you were saying about the chemicals in our foods and things like that. I'm sorry, my screen just died.
No worries.
So
things happen.
If you hear me rattling on the computer, I'm just typing in my password again. Of course, I missed it the first 2 times. There you go. So anyways, the another thing that will cause the leaky gut would be eating foods that you can't properly digest, but also, like I was saying to my point, GMOs, hybridized foods, things like this, irritants in the air that we're breathing, chemtrails, things like, I mean, there's so many things that could irritate our gut lining. In fact, that's going to then irritate our entire body because in your gut is the immune system. So it's all interconnected.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up too. Most people don't associate what you breathe in as something that your whole body has to process that.
Exactly.
So your liver. And I mean, if you think too about the seriousness of when you've got undigested food particles crossing over into the bloodstream, I mean, that's your waste. It should be your waste product. So isn't it kind of like saying the waste that should be leaving your body is getting into your body?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I mean, and that what you're really identifying, Dr. Meg, is the lymphatics. And for those listening, think of the lymphatics as your waste removing system, as your sewer system. And this system is responsible for removing all the debris. And it has a lot to do with the liver, like you just said. But I like to tell my patients, you're as healthy as these 2 things, digestively speaking. 1, how well you properly digest the food you're eating and convert them into nutrition. And 2, how effectively you remove waste. And so the second one is the reason why people come to see me, right? Because they're either having a loose stool complaint, a constipated complaint, maybe they have swollen ankles. These all trace back to what's happening with digestion, the lymphatics, the immune system. And I really like to kind of call the lymphatics and the immune system the same thing, because in a way they really are. I mean, they're your defense, and that's something that's not really talked about a lot. Like we're focusing a lot on all the different buzzwords, but it all goes back to how well you remove waste and how well you digest food.
Wow, and I guess that's probably one of the most important systems we have in our body. Would you say? I
would say, yeah. I mean, I have 2 loves, right? My first love is a doctor of chiropractic, where we're talking about the nervous system, and then I'm now working with the digestive side of things, which the whole gut has its own brain and nervous system as well, called the enteric nervous system. So to your point, like which one's the most important? Hard to say, right? But clearly, the interesting thing for me is, as a chiropractor, we're all about the nerves and the spine and things like that. But once I learned about the gut, you have more nerve cells in your gut, in your GI tract to be specific, than you do in your brain and spinal cord. So that should lend itself to how imperative this system is, the GI tract, at health. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And they have referred to it as the second brain.
Exactly.
Your gut being the second brain. So, and it feeds the first one, the one in your head too.
It does. So, they're so connected to each other, and they're so
all
separate.
One.
Yeah. So much so. Your GI tract can make a decision without even asking permission from the hypothalamus or the pituitary. It's pretty radical how this system really does work. It's so complex.
Wow, amazing. And well, you've been able to break it down into more simple terms for people to understand. Like, here is the seriousness of what is going on in your body. But the next question, I think the obvious question is, okay, so what do we do about it?
Yeah, so people may also have heard of leaky gut called intestinal permeability. They can all be called a lot of the same things. But what people can really do about it, and I'm becoming kind of known for my hashtag PPCSW, which stands for pork, peanuts, corn, soy, wheat, is I tell people, no matter what your condition, whether you're constipated, have a leaky gut, have candida, whatever the case, remove these 5 foods. And that's a great starting step. So what you could do is stop eating pork, stop eating peanuts, stop eating corn, stop eating soy, and stop eating wheat. And by the way, I have to say, because this is a really common question in practice, and maybe people might laugh, but the truth is people are not aware that white flour is wheat flour. I just had a patient today who I said, stop eating wheat. And she's like, well, I'm not. I'm like, well, you're eating pita. I was looking at her food log. And I'm like, okay, well, that pita is wheat. And she's like, no, it was a white pita. And it breaks your heart because this is a really educated woman, but not in this field per se. So she thinks that white is not wheat. And this is common. She's not the first person to say. So, so avoiding pork.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
You do too. See, isn't it interesting?
All the time. Yeah. People have no idea. They hear gluten and they don't even understand that gluten is wheat.
Yeah.
Or it's the protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, so you have to break it down for people. And it's true because, they have whatever their area of expertise is in life and you and I have ours. So that's what we're there to do, is help them through it, hold their hands.
It's true. It's really hand-holding, isn't it? So I would say to avoid those 5 belly busters, pork, peanuts, corn, soy, and wheat, I would also say take a digestive bitter 20 minutes before you eat. So what's a digestive bitter? Well, these are herbs like wormwood, dandelion, gentian root, and they're usually found in tincture form, so they'll be liquid, and they are extremely bitter. They are not going to taste good. they are not going to taste good at all, but you're going to take about a half a teaspoon up to a teaspoon of this 20 minutes before you eat. And what this does is that these herbs, which are usually in tincture form like alcohol solution, like I was saying, they're going to prime the digestive pump. So that's going to kick on and initiate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your feed and breathe section of your nervous system, part of your autonomic nervous system, whereas the fight or flight is going to be your sympathetic. So this is going to kick in digestion. It's going to help your bile be ready to go. It's going to help your stomach acid start to get going, your saliva start to initiate. So that would be the next step, is to take a digestive bitter. You can get them at your health food store. And then the third step would be to take 2 capsules of a digestive enzyme before you eat. And that's really my area of specialty is enzyme nutrition. And so these enzymes do 2 main things. They digest your food. And again, for people listening, foods are really 6 things: fats, carbs, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. So that would be the 6 of the food groups is enzymes. And they are not probiotics. People often confuse them. I don't know if you get that a lot too, Dr. Meg, but that's common. People think. Yeah. So no, probiotics are not enzymes. They're bacteria. They're different. And so taking these digestive enzymes before you eat, what that's going to do is 1 hour after you've taken them and after you've eaten, your food is up to 80% pre-digested before it even leaves the stomach to go into the duodenum, or the part of the small intestine. So that means that there's a lot more energy available to the body to heal and do all kinds of good stuff versus digesting that mess.
All right, everybody, this episode is brought to you by Omega Digestion, OmegaDigestion.com. This is my company. It's doctor formulated, custom formulated products. I have 3 products in my line right now. If you'd like to learn more about them, go to bit.ly/Omega Profile. That's bit.ly/Omega Profile. At Omega Digestion, our mission is to bring plant-based enzyme nutrition and healing botanicals out of the perplexing chemistry class and into the mainstream lunchrooms and family tables. We are working to reintroduce the essential necessities food has on healing, repairing, and nourishing our bodies. By developing an effective, filler-free, and affordable product line, we aim to support the incredible importance digestive health has on millions of people. To check out our 3 products, go to OmegaDigestion.com/smart for a special offer. That's OmegaDigestion.com/smart.
So let me back up a bit and just say, why do we need digestive enzymes? Because we're eating foods that have been processed, packaged, canned, pouched, heated. If you heat anything above 118 degrees Fahrenheit, that's going to now kill the enzymes in that food, and now your metabolic or healing enzymes in your body are going to switch from healing you to digesting that food. And your body can only do that for so long before symptoms start to result.
Okay, I see. And two, it sounds like we're not producing enough digestive enzymes to break down our own food. So we need outside help.
Yeah, we do. And so there's so many people that are making low stomach acid, and yet their doctors are telling them, you know what, you need to be on this proton pump inhibitor, this Nexium, this Prilosec, what have you, because you're making too much acid. That is physiologically impossible. They're just getting that, the doctor is, because the pharmaceutical reps said that. And so they're saying something that's just not at all the case. The reverse is true, which is they may be getting heartburn or something like that because they're not making enough stomach acid. But secondly, that they're not properly digesting protein. And so there's a lot of factors into your stomach acid creation in your body. Like we think of the stomach at any given time. We kind of think of it like, at least I did anyways, before I was, got into this work, I kind of thought of the stomach as this cauldron of acid. At any given time, it's acidic in there, right?
Right.
And it's just ready to go at all times. But that's not the case. When your stomach is empty, when you haven't eaten, your stomach is like a flat envelope. It's only, and there's no acid in there at all. It's only once there is food that drops in there, that pressure of that food landing, there's a signal from the hypothalamus down to the stomach, and things are started to be produced to create hydrochloric acid and things like that. So it's really amazing, the process of the human body, that it knows when to release acid. And then when there's enough, it shuts it off. It no longer throws in the hydrogen and chloride ions from the blood, and it just stops. So it's impossible to make too much stomach acid. So
Wow.
So that's something. So that would be like my fourth thing, Dr. Megas, to your listeners is, just read about the human body, and even though you may go to your doctor, may have a great relationship, which is nice, still educate yourself before you even go about what you're going to be discussing, because there's so much power in knowledge, and there's so much power in asking the right questions to your doctor, and even saying, why do you want to put me on this medication? Tell me what are the side effects. Like really take that doctor to task, because these medicines are not nutritive. They're not going to heal the body. They're only going to cover up symptoms, and they're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. Now, I'm not saying anyone listening that's out there to stop your meds. I'm not.
Right.
But what I am saying is food is really the medicine. And, and food is what our body is made from. And so if this is what our body is made from, fats, carbs, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and enzymes, how about we give that back to the body in the right way and watch the great things that do happen, because that's all the body does need.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened with me when I went through my whole leaky gut syndrome situation 20 years ago. And that's one of the first things my nutritionist did. She did put me on digestive enzymes. And I just couldn't even believe how much they helped everything, and it took a long time for me to heal the gut, and went through quite a journey on it. But once I changed my diet, I mean, within a week, I was a different person. I was
just that fast. Isn't that great?
That fast. I mean, I was eliminating like I had never in my life. Before it was always I was either constipated for weeks. I mean, it would be horrible.
Yeah.
Or I had diarrhea. I was just one or the other. So it was irritable bowel syndrome was one of the other diagnoses. There's just so many that the doctors were just piling on. More diagnoses and more medications, and I wasn't getting well. And it wasn't until I got into food that I did. So in your practice, though, how long does it take? Do you see a difference in your patients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I tell them to give me 2 weeks of working with me with the products that I first I test them and I find out what their body is lacking nutritionally, and then I'll have like 4 products I'll give them. I don't give more than that. Maybe on rare event, if I have somebody that's dealing with chemotherapy and they're going through some cancer treatments to help support what's happening there. But I tell them, give me at least 2 weeks before you judge me. they usually laugh at that. But then I say to them, 90% of the time, I expect you to see these favorable changes in those first 2 weeks. Many times it's within the first week, much like what you said. But it's a two-person approach here. It's me. It's am I doing what I need to do, and finding out what they need effectively. And 2, and more importantly than me, is are they going to be doing the work by following the diet that I have them on? I give them a specific. There's one of 3 diets that they would test into, and I say you don't have to follow this diet perfectly. But if you can give me 80% commitment here, or better, that's all I ask. Meaning you can cheat about 20% of the time. And that just really disarms them, because nobody wants to be on a super, super, super strict diet where they don't feel like they can do anything, right? But even with that cheat of 20%.
Right. Yeah, that's so true.
They still come around within those 2 weeks. I fully expect that. But like I said, most times it's within the week. And that's my favorite part, is seeing their eyes change, like seeing them come back to life, like just literally seeing the lights turn on. And I wish I could have seen that with you when you said it was in a week. That's dramatic.
Yeah.
How many years ago was that for you, that this leaky gut you had?
It was 18 years ago that I was finally diagnosed.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, I was in my 20s at the time. I was like 26, 27, and I was so sick. I just couldn't even believe. I'm so much healthier now and happier and have more energy than I did back then.
So like you were diagnosed before they were even calling it leaky gut, right?
Yeah, well, before Western Medical, but I had a very advanced holistic nutritionist who really knew what she was doing, who also had a Western medical background. So she had the whole gamut. So she knew what pharmaceutical drugs were doing to the body on top of what enzymes and food would be doing to heal it. So, so she got me headed in the right direction. So, and it helped. Now, I do have a question about that too. One of the things that she told me to eliminate at that time, that helped me significantly, were dairy products. Where do you stand on that?
On dairy products?
Mm-hmm.
So that's not in my 5 belly busters, but it's number 6.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I think that it's very important that if people are going to still consume dairy, that they're making sure that it's organic. I mean, at the bare minimum, because listen, otherwise you're going to be consuming that cow's hormones, growth hormones, antibiotics, all kinds of nastiness. Why would you? Pesticides, all that the cow is consuming.
GMOs.
Yes, you are in turn eating, and it's just something that you don't want to have all the time if you are going to have it. And then also, if you are going to have dairy and it is organic, I also recommend 2% or higher fat. So like, don't think, this is a really big point here, do not think that you're getting calcium from your dairy. You're not. This is a very effective marketing campaign by the dairy associations, and
they did a really good job.
They did.
Masterful. The milk mustache.
Masterful. Yes. Yeah. And having the celebrities with the milk mustache. I mean, all of it. So yeah, you're actually losing calcium when you take a product that's high in phosphorus, as dairy and meat products are. So the reason why I say 2% or full-fat dairy, if you're going to have it, is because it's a good source of fat and protein. And that's the only reason why I would say dairy is good at all. I mean, we are the only mammal drinking another mammal's milk. Like I like to say, you wouldn't see a porcupine sucking on a hippo's nipple. You just wouldn't see that in nature, or very common, right? But
it's similar to what I say, but I like the way you say it better. It's more impactful.
Yeah, much more graphic, right? A porcupine sucking on a hippo's nipple. Go ahead and everybody think about that right now.
Yeah.
But with the advent of the internet and Facebook, I have seen videos of, I think it were kittens. A dog was like nursing kittens, or a pig was. So I've seen something, but that's just crazy, not typical. It is very typical for us to be drinking cow's milk all the time. Cow's milk. And dairy is very phlegm producing. It causes a lot of phlegm and a lot of problems with the sinuses.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know when I worked with my Oriental medical doctor through an autoimmune condition, he said that there's such high load of bacteria in dairy products that if you already have these bacteria in your system that are creating the problems, it just makes it worse. So he was saying, just to reduce the bacterial load that you're putting into your body. And one of the ways he suggested doing that was eliminating the dairy products. So, and I know for me, I'm allergic to casein and, the dairy, and lactose intolerant on top of that. So it's just sort of like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
And I wanted to say something really quickly about when you see a kitten nursing another species, they're also babies. And I always say cow's milk is for baby cows, because even a cow is only going to drink the milk for the first 6 months of its life in order to get its immunities and its digestive system in order. It's so funny. The natural world knows so much better than we do what to do.
Yes. So very good point. So I need to reformulate my little phrase there. So you wouldn't see a grown porcupine sucking on a hippo's nipple. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They are still babies, and you do not see grown cows still suckling. You don't see it. Nor do you see grown humans suckling still, unless that's some other kind of story. But
I live in Hollywood. You never know what you hear.
hilarious.
But anyway, I digress.
As do I. Sorry, I took you there. I could do that. I'm known to do that.
I like it. It makes it more fun. We're really talking about some serious stuff here. I mean, there's so much resistance to change,
Yeah.
and I get it. I was devastated when I was told no gluten, no dairy, no soy, no peanuts, no corn, no alcohol, no caffeine. But that was at the outset.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to reintroduce many of those things back in, and a lot of things I just don't want them anymore.
Yeah, you've become accustomed to how good you feel, and your taste buds have changed, your desires have changed. Everything is different when you eat the right way. And there are a lot of patients that I do pull dairy out of, and those are my more extreme, or if they're not coming along as I like them to, then I'm like, guess what? Sorry to tell you, but that's got to go. But even then, it's hard for a lot of people to even follow through with it. And it just has to become, how much do you value your health? Because I can't care more about your health than you do. You have to care more about your health. And unfortunately, I'm sure you've seen this a lot too, Dr. Mann, that there's a lot of people who they just can't pull that trigger yet to put themselves first. Like they have all these other cravings and desires and addictions, and it's really, really hard. And the more frenetic our society becomes, I think that this is getting worse. Like people are, they're not eating, they're not making a scheduled time to eat. They're just eating when they think of it.
Right.
And I know that I've been guilty of this as well, where I'm eating when I think of it because I'm so busy working and trying to do all these things. But we really need to schedule that into our day, just like anything else, and take the time to prepare our food, to do the right shopping, and just setting ourselves up to win. And if we can't do that, then either hire somebody else to do it or whatever the case is. But there's got to be better strategies because, you are your biggest asset, and you have to take care of your body.
Absolutely. And that's what I always tell people too. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Amen.
And I think food is the baseline for every single thing you do in your life. It's just it's the basic thing. And then the more you nourish you with that, the better you are at operating in every area of your life. So it makes a huge difference.
Yes.
So, okay, so we talked about the foods that exacerbate the condition. What about foods that support leaky gut syndrome?
So the foods that are going to support are going to be absolutely plant-based. So things like kale, like coconut oil, like avocados. I mean, I am an avocado hoarder. I can't get enough. I just think that they're the world's perfect food. I mean, I would make my interior of my car avocado guacamole and just eat it as I'm driving in.
I would make raw cacao pudding.
Ooh, I want to try that. I want to get that recipe. But speaking of cacao, that's another one. Just looking back to nature and seeing its beauty. I mean, foods like blueberries or bananas. I mean, any food is going to be healing of the gut. But specifically, you have herbs like slippery elm or marshmallow root. These are very good at healing the mucosal lining. So okra would be another great one that's really mucus forming. But primarily the ones that I use herbs-wise are going to be marshmallow root and slippery elm. And understanding that you have, your whole GI tract is pretty much lined with mucus, and that's necessary. You need to have it there. And so calming down this inflammation is important to eat foods that aren't that aren't inflammatory. You want foods that are anti-inflammatory. So things that are real plant-based, not cooked, raw if you can, or lightly cooked. But if you're going to do this, another food we can't forget are the enzymes, because they are indeed foods as well. So taking 2 capsules of your digestive enzyme before you eat is also going to be healing to a leaky gut. Avoiding the foods that are genetically modified or hybridized, things like this, sprayed with pesticide glyphosate. You got to be mindful of this kind of thing. So those listening, please, I beg of you, stop buying Roundup and spraying it around your home. It's killing the bees. It's definitely ruining the environment, and it's something that people aren't even aware. They just think that they're killing a weed, but they don't realize in effect that that's spreading and killing bees and all these other things, and it's scary.
And then the World Health Organization finally, after all these years of Roundup use, finally said just recently that, glyphosate is a carcinogen. So it's like, we've known this in the natural health communities for a very long time, and we've been suggesting that avoiding that. I get that question a lot from people, is organic really better for you. And there's so much rhetoric in the general public that says the opposite, like, oh no, it's not really, it's just, it's just a fad, it's just a thing. It's, it's like, I grew up on organic produce myself because my mom she's a scientist.
Oh.
And she read Rachel Carson's book in 1964, Silent Spring.
Wow.
And she predicted the future that we are in right now. People dying of cancers on the mass levels that they are, and it's just going to continue getting worse. They're saying that by 2050, it's going to triple the rate of people with cancer from all of the environmental toxins and the toxins we're spraying on our food and in our environment, and how it's just breaking us all down. So anyway, my mom was like, we have this little 1/4-acre lot in the city, and she just farmed the whole thing.
Oh, wow. I love her. How amazing to have her as your mother. Good for you.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's such a great influence. And she was just like, we're not using bug spray. We're not, if there's bugs to be killed, we're not having, we had one infestation, and she did call a pesticide person in once, but, it's just sort of like we live with the environment. We have organic ways that we work with it. So
I love
I
that.
think just so many people just don't understand. They just don't know. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you really can gauge the health and the efficiency of an environmental area if you see dragonflies, if you see fireflies, if you see praying mantises. I mean, if you see ladybugs and bees. If you don't see these important creatures, that's not good. That's just really not good. And so
Welcome to Los Angeles.
yeah, I mean, like, I live in the country, and I chose to live there because I lived in New Hampshire after I graduated chiropractic school back in I graduated chiropractic school like December 12th, and I was living there like December 27th. So it was like quick. And then like the next couple of days I turned 30. So there was a lot happening in my life. But my point is, I lived in New Hampshire for 5 years, and it's because of that beautiful area of the world that I'm like, you know what, whenever I move next, if I happen to move back home to Michigan, I'm going to make sure that I live in the country, because it just got me in tune with nature for the first time. And so when I moved back home, I purposely went out an hour from where I grew up, and that's where I live now. And I love it. And I see fireflies at night all the time. I have frogs. I have a pond in my front yard. I have frogs, the crickets. I just, you just have to pay attention. My neighbors have bees and chickens and all that. And that's where I'm so impressed with people who raise their own chickens, or who have their own bees, or who have their own little garden, even if it's just in their windowsill. Anybody listening, any of you people who have these things, I love you, because you are contributing to taking your health back. Those that want to do that, go do it. It can be something so small as a little planter in your window. But the power of herbs and food, this is what's going to heal the leaky gut. It's looking at food and thinking, what's best, an apple or apple juice that's been refined, pasteurized, this kind of thing? Clearly the apple. You want to eat the whole thing. I mean, you want the fiber, you want what's underneath the peel, you want all of that. And so I think it's just a matter of what can heal, what are things that people can do to heal their leaky gut. It's just basic common sense things, and like just being comparative into what you're going to eat. Make better decisions. If you're going to cheat, make that something that is absolutely something that you've earned,
Yeah.
And then maybe when you start doing something really good for yourself, instead of wanting to quote unquote cheat, you're going to treat yourself by doing something even better, like having wheatgrass or having a kale salad. Like, why do we always think of cheating as having the bad things, right?
I know.
Think of cheating as maybe making yourself something super healthy like you wouldn't normally do, or something that takes a lot more of your time. So,
yeah,
or buying yourself something.
One of the things I noticed for myself was creating new comfort foods. Like, it became more comfortable and comforting for me to have a carrot juice, which I don't do juices anymore because of the high sugar load and not the lack of fiber. I was going to ask you, what's your stance on that, on juicing?
So I've definitely reformed my stance on this. I used to think that it was okay to have fruits with your vegetable juice and juice them, but clearly the more I've learned and the more I've watched some of my colleagues like you and others on Periscope, which is just amazing, I definitely agree with you. I think that if we're going to juice, it should be very little, if any, fruit. I just made a juice this morning, which was cilantro, cucumber, and celery from my great dear friend, Linny. And this is something that she makes every single day for her and her husband. Every single day she makes a green smoothie. I mean, this girl is on track, track, because she, like you, had dealt with a lot of health challenges, and she, on her own, took her health back. So I think that we automatically think that if we're going to juice an apple, we're doing something good for ourselves. If we juice it, whatever it is on our own. but we're not really paying attention to that spike in the blood sugar. And so,
Yes.
so this is something that I've changed my thoughts about as well. I definitely am for people juicing things that are green. So yeah, a cucumber is considered a fruit because it has seeds, but still, you get my point that it's still green. It's not going to spike your blood sugar, and it tastes delicious when you add spices to it, whether it's turmeric or a little black pepper. I mean, there's so many things we could do to start to enjoy eating this way, because for a lot of people, they would try this and they would hate it. Like I gave my mom a sip today of what I'm drinking, which has got jalapenos and cilantro and lettuce and
Oh my God, it sounds so good.
yeah, it's amazing. And she just looked at me and she was all mad. She came back and she had two, not just one, but two peppermints in her mouth. And I'm like, Mom, seriously, really? And she's like, that's terrible. And so my point is, you know, my mom doesn't usually eat this way. So it's something that's not going to be natural for everybody, but you have to give it time, because your body is so used to eating such processed junk that you got to sweat this junk out of you. You got to start introducing this stuff into your world, and you will eventually love it and actually crave it. Just like you said, you don't want that stuff anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I always talk about how it's a palate adjustment.
Good point. I love that term. Yeah.
And once your palate does adjust to real food, oh my gosh. And I can say this because I was a junk food junkie, even though my mom was, you know, Mrs. Organic, actually Dr. Organic. My father was a junk food junkie. I mean, he just had he was always bringing in the pastries and the donuts.
Oh, no.
And, you know, we were putting sugar on our cereal. I mean, it was insane. So I had like both sides of it all.
Wow.
So yeah, so not to suggest that I had the sunny life of all organic food as a child and still got sick, because that's not what happened.
But I got to ask you, how did your mom deal with that with her husband, your dad? How did she handle him when he'd come home with cookies?
He's a hard man to handle. So. You know, but she also, I think, you know, she wasn't as aware of the nutritional aspects and what sugar does to the body. I don't think many people were aware back, you know, in the 60s, 70s, 80s. About those things. You know, it's a much more well-known today. But even today, you know, I mean, just the amount of sugar that people are consuming is just unbelievable. So
I so agree with that. Yeah, it's so true.
So anyway, so I had both those worlds, and that's what led to the demise. I did a lot of junk food.
What was your favorite thing when you were a junk food?
Oh, this is horrible. Oh my God.
Do you want to admit it, or is this bad?
This is
taboo?
A big confession. No, I love admitting this, because this lets people know that I'm not just like this perfect, all I do is eat green food all the time.
Right.
But, when I was in college, I feel like true confessions.
Spill it, Dr. Meg, spill it.
When I was in college, I used to go to 7-Eleven. And I would get, I am not kidding, chili dogs with cheese.
It's so funny because you're telling this story and like your voice is quieter, like you're backing away from the computer, like you're trying to slink out of the room. You can't do it. You're in. We're all listening. And what else? Did you get a Slurpee with that?
Well, sometimes that wasn't. I would have a Coke. I love Coke. I drink a lot of Coke. But yeah, the chili dog with cheese, that was a go-to food. It was cheap. It tasted really good to me. I didn't pay attention really to the fact that I felt like crap after I ate it until I got so sick that I had to pay attention. I think that's what a lot of people end up doing. But yeah, that was one of that and McDonald's. I ate a lot of McDonald's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really common. A lot of people listening, you know, those are weaknesses for all of us, or have been at some time. So yeah. What about candy? Did you like candy a lot?
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Snickers bars or Almond Joys. Almond Joys, I think, or Mounds were my favorite. The coconut and chocolate thing.
Do you have a version of an Almond Joy that you've created?
I do have a coconut cacao candy that I've created.
I somehow knew this. Exactly.
Well, that's a great question too, because that's also demonstrating there are alternatives that are healthy that still taste amazing. That make you feel good on the other side of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your confession. You did a good job. We all still love you, and we love you even more. So thanks for telling us about your chili dog saga.
Yeah, really fun. Thanks. Okay, so leaky gut syndrome. Are there any things that you would like to leave the audience with?
just like what we were saying before, which is, just evaluate things. Does it make sense? I mean, does it make sense if there's some powder you sprinkle over your food and it's going to make you lose weight? I mean, no, that does not make sense.
Right.
Just people just taking back a common sense approach to this or this. You know what I mean? Like, would I rather have this or that? And just being your own warrior for your own health. I mean, there's a lot of labels that are given to people. People think that if they have leaky gut, or if they have IBS, or if they have Crohn's, that they have it forever. People really underestimate the power, the true amazing power of the human body. So that's what I would really leave people with, is to just really embrace the fact that your body is doing so many things right now without you even having to think about it, and it constantly wants to heal, and it does. And so giving your body that ability to recover and to heal is really up to what you're putting in your mouth, what you're thinking about in your head. I mean, your thoughts have a lot to do with your gut, like we were talking about before, and we just touched on it, but it's so true. If you're eating even when you're stressed or angry, upset, that's going to impact digestion in a negative way. So there are a lot of things I could leave people with, but it would mainly be just be smart. And that's why my podcast is called Smart Digestion. It's just be smart about what your choices are. And if you're going to make a misstep here or there, that's okay. We all do. Just get right back. It's how fast you get back from your misstep back onto the right track. That's what's really important. It's not that, are you going to make a mistake? Because we all are. And we will continually do that. It's how quickly you're going to get back, and how much do you value yourself, your body, your brain, your heart, all of these things. It's up to you. You have to care about your body more than anybody else. And so that's what I would really say.
Absolutely. That's beautifully put, and truth. Hashtag truth.
Thank you. Hashtag truth. I love it.
Wow. Thank you so much for being on the show today. This is fantastic information, and I know the listeners are going to love it. So.
Well, thank you, Dr. Meg. It's so great to talk to your listeners. It's so great to talk to you. I've enjoyed watching you on Periscope, so it's nice to finally, I don't know why we took so long. It's my fault. I know you reached out to me earlier, so I'm glad we finally got this done. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
So there you have it. There is part 1 out of the 2 episodes, where part 1 is you just heard Dr. Meg interview me. And then next up is me interviewing Dr. Meg. I hope you really enjoyed that conversation. Sometimes you get a little bit more out of the podcast if somebody is interviewing me. And I really appreciated her taking the time to ask me those great questions. And we had a good time, as you could tell. So stay tuned for the next episode where I get to interview my pal, Dr. Meg. Alrighty then, another episode of Smart Digestion Radio is in the books. However, the conversation never stops there. Great hubs to connect with me are going to be my Facebook page, which is The Digestion Doc. That's my handle on Twitter and Instagram as well. If you are interested in joining my community, my private inner circle over on Facebook, go to healthyrebelsfb.com. That's healthyrebelsfb.com. And my other main sites are thedigestiondoctor.com and omegadigestion.com. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of the mission. My mission is to save 5 million lives from the broken medical model, and I cannot do it alone. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.